Hello, everyone. Welcome to Skeptical Inquirer Presents. I am your temporary host, Kenny Biddle, filling in for Leanne Lord. This is a series of live online presentations from experts who are devoted to advancing science over pseudoscience, media literacy over conspiracy theories, and critical thinking over magical thinking, because that's what we do here. Again, I am your host, Kenny Biddle. I am the chief investigator here at CSI. I get to investigate all kinds of weird stuff like ghosts and monsters and miracles and stuff like that. If you like these presentations that we do here on Skeptical Inquirer Presents, check out some of the other things that we do, like Point of Inquiry. That's our podcast, the official podcast of CFI. You can get it wherever you find your favorite podcast. We also have Skeptical Inquirer Magazine, which is right here. I highly recommend that you go online to skepticalinquirer.org and subscribe because it's a great magazine. And I'm not just saying that because I write for the magazine. Maybe I am. I don't know, because I do write for the magazine and I really love it. So subscribe. And lastly, I want to say is PsyCon 2024 is coming up, October 24th to 27th. In Las Vegas, Nevada. It is always a great time. We have a huge lineup of speakers. We have Brian Cox and Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, two big powerhouses in one stage. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Plus, I'm doing a workshop Thursday, so come check that out. And that's about it. I'm going to shut up now because we have a guest tonight, and I want to get to his presentation. So we have Jim Underdown, who is the director of the CFIIG, I believe, and he's going to come on and tell you a little bit about himself and the presentation that he has. So take it away, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Kenny. Oh, that's not me. Yeah, that's not even and I never had blue hair. All right. Well, I guess I'm just going to dive into it. I have a PowerPoint presentation. And so what we're going to be talking about today is the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group and what we do and why we do it and how we do it. And so let me just dive in and share the PowerPoint and we'll start from there. And by the way, write your questions down, I guess, in the chat. And Eric will curate these things later on. And we'll take some questions in a little while. So this is what we do. People who claim to have superpowers, we actually test them and we lead the world in this behavior. So let's get to it. But first, actually what I wanted to, before we get going here, why is my slide not advancing? There we go. Yesterday was James the Amazing Randy's birthday. Randy was set the gold standard for testing paranormal claims. I put him and Harry Houdini in an elite category of two who were probably last century and a chunk of this century's best testers of paranormal claims. So a little quick salute to Randy, who would have been 96 years old yesterday. So we've tested dowsers, healers, remote viewers, telepaths, telekinetics, teleporters, a guy who could deform beer bottles, a woman who could move clouds, a guy who could create a vortex, and a psychic friend of the Holy Spirit, a rare combination of religious and paranormal beliefs. That's just a tiny fraction of the people that we've tested in the past quarter century. So I just wanted to give you a quick little taste of the kinds of people we're up against over the years. So Once in a while, I get a call just to test and verify something just from regular people who just want to know if something's real or not. So we got a call from a TV show called The Freak Show, based on an actual business called Freak Show in Venice, California. So you've all probably heard of fire walks where people they burn a bunch of logs and they rake out the coals and walk over the coals after they cool down a little bit. What Freak Show wanted to do was to take some 1/4 inch, 12 by 12 inch steel plates, and they put them in these grills and blew air into them and got them orange hot, and wanted me to verify that the guy on the right there in all black, his name is Tim Cridland, also known as Zamora the Torture King. I guess he worked at the Freak Show. But anyway, they wanted to make sure and verify through me that this guy was actually walking on hot steel plates. And this is quite a different situation from regular firewalks because the steel plates, A, were much hotter. They conduct heat much better than the wood ash. And so even though he didn't spend a lot of time on each one, they wanted to make sure he was actually doing it. So I went out to the show and they lined him up. And here's what happened. I got a little video here. Notice the plume of smoke coming up behind him there. That's the smoke from his skin burning. I took no joy in this. He did do it for real. We took temperatures of this stuff before and after they were placed. The EMT who was in charge of it told me, I mean, he played it off pretty tough. He, made it sound like it wasn't hurting him that bad, but the EMT said this guy was going to have a long night. So it was real. And that's the conclusion of the real claims for tonight. Everything else is going to be a fail. I hate to blow the surprise, but that's what's going to happen. So today we're going to talk about some common questions that most people ask about the group and what we do. I'm going to give a few examples of tests for the money that we've done over the last 25 years. I'm going to show one demonstration that wasn't for the money, but it was kind of a test and is relevant to this week because of the Olympics. And some of the stuff we keep in mind while we're going through this whole process, because we've learned a lot in the past 25 years about who's applying and what is going on, what is really going on with these claims. So first of all, who are we and why do we even think we can do this? Well, it all starts with the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, which was originally the Committee for the Scientific Investigations of Claims of the Paranormal. CFIIG is the mother of the Center for Inquiry and the mother of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. So they published, as Kenny mentioned, Skeptical Inquirer magazine. So going right into it, we knew we had this tremendous wealth of experts and people who knew about these kinds of claims. So what are these claims? Here's a poll from 2018. Now, not all claims, not all paranormal beliefs are necessarily testable through current experimentation. When we show up to haunted houses, the spirits never show up. The aliens never show up. But some things can be tested that people think that they can move objects with their minds. We've done many times. And fortune tellers, psychics, tarot card readers, all the different types of under the category of fortune telling. Most of the stuff can be tested through regular means. Now, when it says 26% of the public, that's 26% of the American public. In today's America, that's 86 million people believe that people can move objects with their minds. So this is no small, obscure belief lots of people out there think this can happen. So the group itself, I founded in 2000, January of 2000. The main group is in Los Angeles. We have a smaller group in San Francisco. We have people all over the country and in different parts of the world that we can tap into for help when we need it, because we get applications to our prize from all over the world. Now, the prize started right away in the group in 2000. We had no other financial backing. We started the prize at $5,000. We reached into our own pockets for that money, and it rose and rose over the years to the point where it is now at $500,000 for anyone who can prove paranormal powers under scientific test conditions. Now, that thing underneath, that $5,000 to the person who brings us a winner, and it has to be a winner, that is in order to put pressure on the people who say that they can do this. If people around them have to keep hearing that, oh, my uncle or whoever has this ability, why don't you help me out with the $5,000 and go win this money? So we've tested more paranormal claimants than anyone in the world on 5 different continents. And this $500,000 prize is currently the largest prize in the world. Of course, it's modeled after the James Randi $1 Million Challenge, which has been dormant for many years and hasn't tested anyone in quite a long time. So this is where it's at today in 2024. We also do a web series called Skeptilab. The bunk stops here. And what we do is we use celebrities to be our guests, and we debunk one issue for every episode. There's Jim O'Hare from Parks and Recreation on the left, TV's Jim O'Hare, Julia Sweeney from Saturday Night Live, Matt Walsh. There's Andy Richter from the Conan O'Brien show did some dowsing tests for us. Adam Felber from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Annabelle Gurwitch, and we have Phil Lamar coming on in an episode that's just about to drop. So how many people have we tested over the years? And especially in the early days, we weren't that good at keeping track, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 60. There have been a lot of informal tests that you could or could not count, but in the many dozens, between 60 and 100 probably. We get about between 150 and 200 applications a year to the prize, and we end up testing between usually 6 and 10 people a year over the last several years. So out of all these people who come and get tested, how many try to cheat? And its sister question, do they really believe they have superpowers? Well, let's do a little pop quiz for everybody here. And over 23, sorry, that's should be 20, almost 25 years of testing. What percentage of applicants have tried to cheat or trick us during some aspect of the testing process? All right, answer in your heads first, and I'll give you some multiple choices. What percentage have tried to cheat? A, so far none has tried. B, about half try to scam us. Or C, almost all try to pull something on us. Make your choice. And the answer is nobody. Nobody in 24 years and 8 months has tried to cheat us. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the people who show up are believers, and they absolutely believe that they possess these powers. Now, to be fair, this is a self-selecting group, and the people who are trying to cheat us may very well find out during the negotiation process when we're working with them to create a test for them, and we work with every single person based on their claim, and we go back and forth. Both parties agree on the final test. The ones who are planning to cheat probably find out somewhere in that process that whatever they have in mind is not going to work, so they pull out. But everyone who's shown up has really thought that they could do it. Okay, how do I apply? I can feel the vibes. Some of the people out there are chomping at the bit right now for that $500,000. What do I apply? How do I apply, and what are the rules? Well, all you got to do is go to our website and apply online, fill out the form. We'll ask you some simple questions about what you can do when you found out and things like that. Now, there are rules and regulations, and let's go over some of those rules and regulations. You must pay for all your own expenses. We are not going to pay for your vacation to Los Angeles and put you up in a hotel. You pay for everything. And that means all costs involved with the test, even if there are some prior costs. I'll talk about one of the tests we did where the person had to pay hundreds of dollars before she could even be tested because we had to shell out a bunch of money to conduct the test in the first place. I'll talk about that in a minute. There's some other rules and policies. We, the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group, cannot be part of the test. We are not in any way going to help you or be subjects or anything like that. And that includes finding you a co-participant. This most often happens with people who think they have the ability of telepathy to either hear other people's thoughts or place thoughts in our minds. Many times people have called me up saying, you know what I'm thinking right now? And I say, no, I do not know what you're thinking right now. You find someone who knows what you're thinking. That person will be a part of the test. Another rule is that no one can risk injury in this. People have talked about, being able to wound themselves or others. At least 3 times, we have had people who claim to be able to stop a bullet with their minds. So I was game. I went to our legal staff and I said, look, we got a guy who says he could stop a bullet with his mind and I want to shoot him. And he said, no way. And I said, come on, one less believer in the world. Think about it. And he said, no, no way. I said, what if I wing him? And he said, no. And I said, BB gun? No. Paintball? No. Wiffle ball? No. He said we could shoot him with a Nerf ball. And I said, well, there's no penalty in being hit by a Nerf. So we just called it off based on that rule. Also, and we have to tell this to a lot of people, your ghost video, your video of, moving a marble across your coffee table, none of these recordings or videos or photographs count. There are just too many ways to fake that sort of thing. So, we're happy to take a look at it and try to figure out what's going on. I know Kenny's real good at that sort of thing, but it's not going to apply toward the money. Pretty much, you're going to have to succeed face-to-face or at least Zoom to Zoom live that we're in control over. Now, so no one's cheated so far, or tried to cheat, but how do you prevent people from cheating or just getting lucky? Well, those are 2 different questions. So there are a series of sort of precautions that we do that I'll call Underdown 7 suggestions. First, let's address the luck issue. The tests are 2-part, and part 1, when odds can be assigned. And now I'm talking about things like using Zener cards, the star, square, plus, circle, wavy lines, or playing cards or dice or anything like that, where you can assign odds to something. In order to get past the first part of the test, it's going to be 5,000 to 1 or more generally. And if you pass that test, then you pass part 2 for the money, which is 1,000,000 to 1. So the combined odds by luck alone is 5 billion to 1. And the Center for Inquiry Board thinks those odds are long enough that we don't have to worry about losing it by luck alone. But not all tests can be done by luck alone. A woman from Philadelphia flew to Los Angeles and said that if she were sitting across from me, she could make me pee in my pants on command. I said, even after I just went to the bathroom, she said, absolutely. So there, I didn't know how to assign odds to that. And we said, come on down. And she ended up changing her mind at the last minute. But cloud movers, earthquake predictor, some of these other things, it's pretty hard to assign odds to some of these things. So the tests are two-part. We must control the environment. So we're not going to go to your house that you've had the last 10 years to trick out and, put all your magic gimmicks in there. This is going to be a place of our choosing. Brainstorm the cheats. That just means using all our connections with our magic friends and our physics friends and everyone else to try to figure out how this might be cheated. Understand the odds when applicable. So, if someone's saying that they can flip 6 coins out of 10, we know right away that that's not long enough odds for it to be a legitimate test. Keep the number of insiders to a minimum. This is referring to double blinding everything. I don't want to know what the answers are while I'm administering the test. I don't want anyone in the room to know what the answers are while we're administering a test. So we keep that information to a minimum. And do your homework and know the physics. There are some weird things out there that you might not know about that seem pretty weird if you look at, but in reality are perfectly normal and natural. There's a thing called a rattleback. Google rattleback if you get a chance. If you spin it one direction, it just keeps spinning. If you spin it in the other direction, it stops on its own, rocks back and forth, and changes direction. So if you didn't know that, it was just because of the canoe shape of this thing, that might be quite a surprise to you. And then finally, no last minute changes. We figure out the test, you come, that's the test you take. Don't try to change something at the last minute. After they fail, and so far 100% of them have, I always ask, what do you think happened? Why weren't you able to do this? We understand if there were odds to it, like what the odds came out, like, is the type of number we expected you to get anyway, we expect anybody to get. Most of the time, we sort of know what's going on and we try to give people a rational explanation of what's happened. Some are receptive to that, most aren't. But we throw our 2 cents in anyway. We've been doing this for a quarter century. We might as well get our take on it. But bear in mind, we're always respectful and compassionate to people. We're not there to humiliate anyone or make them feel stupid or anything. We're pretty gentle with the people. A few last little things here. Some of these things are really tedious. If you say, and someone actually said this, that they could change a binary outcome, and by binary outcome, I mean something like a coin flip or evens or odds or something like that. Someone said that they could get that right 53% of the time. So 50% of the time, you're going to guess right just by luck. 53% of the time means you have to flip the coin or roll the dice or whatever lots and lots and lots of times. And sometimes that means sitting around for hours waiting for these people to get through to the end. The process of narrowing our applicants to testable claims is sometimes long and arduous. So we have a team called our first responders who handle the applications when they first come in, and they try to steer these people into picking one single ability that they want to be tested in. and then trying to figure out a fair way that's fair for both sides and how this can be tested. So this goes back and forth, can go back and forth quite a bit. A lot of the people have no knowledge of science or its methods or laws of probability or anything like that. So sometimes it takes a long time. Now, this is kind of a delicate question. Are any of the applicants mentally ill? And how do we deal with that? The short answer is yes, some of them are, and it most frequently happens with the telepaths. Now, let's talk about mental illness and altered states of mind in general. First of all, we don't diagnose, since even though I have 5 mental health professionals on our team, we don't diagnose. These people are not their patients. They have no long history with them. But that being said, some of what these people are, some of the behaviors they're exhibiting are well-known symptoms and signs of disturbed behavior, mental illness, and various other maladies. So we definitely deal with these people. Many are or have been mentally ill, and many of them are very open to it. They're willing to talk about the meds they're on. I actually got a call from a guy from a mental institution in Northern California inquiring about being tested. I said we would test him, but I'm going to need a note from your doctor first. Now, so with all that in mind, mental illness or an odd state of mind does not necessarily logically preclude you from being tested. Just because you may be suffering from mental illness or drunk or high or anything, the argument has been made, maybe some of those aspects of yourself lead to this fantastic supernatural ability. So we don't disqualify people just because they happen to do this. We might try to discourage them a little bit, but if they're insistent, we will test you. Before every test, for the record, I always ask, is there any reason you can't perform your test today? Most people are surprised or even shocked that they fail. Many of them backpedal, if not immediately, within the next few days after they fail. Most cited excuse is too many skeptics in the room. And so that's what usually happens. A few of them have actually rethought their superpowers and decided to stop thinking about this and trying it. Okay, so let's talk about some actual tests we did. There's Sparky the Wonder Dog. Sparky and his owner Gordy there contacted the Tonight Show in 2000, and the Tonight Show, and he said, I have this magic dog who can, I can hold a placard in my hand without him seeing it and ask him to start barking, and he will bark out the number on the placard in my hand. So the Tonight Show called up James Randi, and the Randi organization called us and they said, this guy's in LA. Would you mind testing him? So we decided to test. One of our first big tests was Sparky the Wonder Dog. Now, Sparky, we brainstormed the cheats with this because Gordy sent us a video of this, and Sparky could still do this even though he was behind a wavy glass shower door. He still seemed to be able to get the right number on the placard. So we were brainstorming all kinds of weird possible cheats. We thought maybe he had a dog whistle in his mouth. We thought maybe he had a shock collar going, was releasing his scent, all kinds of different things. There's Sparky on the day of the test, and at the picture from the article from the newspaper. What we ended up doing was just putting a curtain between Sparky and Gordy. I saw them try to do this on a cable access show. And Sparky, even with a crappy little fern in between him and Gordy, seemed to lose his powers. So I thought maybe a curtain would do the same thing. And sure enough, Gordy yelled out, "Okay, Sparky, how many?" And Sparky started barking and barking and barking and barking. And he just kept going and going. And Gordy got pissed and started yelling at Sparky. And I said, "Don't yell at Sparky, Gordy. It's not his fault. You're making a mistake on what's going on here in the first place." So, too bad he never made it to the Tonight Show, and he never made it to the, at the time, $5,000 prize. Now, I told you some of these tests get expensive. This is the case I was talking about. There's Anita. Anita said she could look inside a human body and see if you were missing a kidney or not. Now, a human kidney is about the size of your fist. And if you could clearly see inside the body, you should not ever make a mistake of whether there's one there or not. But think about what might go into doing this test. I mean, first of all, we ended up having to find, I think, 4 or 5 different people who were missing kidneys. Now, you can't just walk into a hospital or a nephrology clinic and say, "I need a list of people who are missing kidneys." We had to spread the word out far and wide. It took 20 volunteers to put this together. It took quite a bit of work just to find these people in the first place. We lined them up in 3 groups of 6. Anita had to pick the right person and the right kidney for the person each of the 3 times. So we had 18 volunteers just sitting there, and 1 in each group was missing a kidney. Now, you talk about doing your research. We found out in the course of our investigation that when somebody donates a kidney, when you voluntarily give a kidney, it's almost always the left kidney that people donate. So now, as good scientific testers, we thought Anita might know this fact as well. So now we're not only are we looking for people who are missing a kidney, we're looking for people who are missing a left kidney, a right kidney. So it was a very arduous task. Now they're all wearing the same hats and clothes and scarves just to kind of shelter the way they look and everything. This was also complicated by the fact, oh, here's her score sheet. So we drew up a little look figures for her to look at and make notes on. She did in fact guess right kidney, left kidney every time. But she also had to pay for the ultrasound machine in the background and the tech to run the ultrasound machine. Why? Because we had to prove to her in the end that the people that she said were missing a kidney were not, in fact, missing a kidney. And it was a little bit risky for us because some people running around out there are missing kidneys and do not even know it. She got one right. She did not pass the test, but that was one hell of a test. Philip had the claim of clairaudience. This is the ability to hear at a distance. And this was a little bit of a physics problem because, first of all, we didn't want to just test someone for exceptional hearing. You know, there are, I'm sure, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people and animals out there with exceptional hearing. Clairaudience goes beyond that and hearing something that simply could not be heard. So we had to set up a unique little situation in our old building on Hollywood Boulevard. We built the sound booth. We called it the Fort. We tipped these couches up, and the test was to read words into the sound booth upstairs in this steel and concrete building where when Philip was downstairs on the stage and trying to hear them. He was not able to hear any of these words that were being said. But the thing that was interesting about this was that we found out in the post-test interview, his father was there as well. We found out that at one point, because he was sort of hearing these voices in his head, he went to a psychiatrist who diagnosed him with a mild form of schizophrenia, which was responsible for him hearing the voices. He started taking meds for the schizophrenia and stopped hearing the voices. The father intervened. The father and mother were both devout Christians, and they insisted that they and their church pray over Philip and to get rid of his illness instead of taking the medicine. And lo and behold, the voices came back, and he wanted to be tested again a year later. And we highly discouraged him from doing that. It was kind of a sad situation that people weren't using the science available to them to cure this difficulty. Okay, here's a really funny one. These two guys were living in Tacoma, Washington. The guy on the left said that he could send 47 out of 52 cards in a playing deck. He could send 47 to Rolando on the right there, and they could get 47 out of 52 cards right in a telepathic test. Now, for those of you statistician and probability fans out there, the odds of doing this by luck alone are off the charts, astronomical to get this by luck alone. But we decided to test them. They did not show up for the first test. Reagan called a week later and said he was in jail. That's why he missed the test. So I called the jail and asked him if he was in fact in jail. And the guy said yes. And he said, "Why do you ask?" And I said, "You're not going to believe this, but he was supposed to come down to Los Angeles to be tested for psychic abilities." And he said, "Okay." So we gave him a second chance and they showed up. But here's the weird thing that happened. They decided that they wanted to come down on a bus instead of in an airplane. Now, to fly from Tacoma at the time was like $225. And to take a bus, which took 23 hours, was $215. So why would you take a bus, a 23-hour bus ride, when you could just fly down? So it got us paranoid. And we thought, well, what's the difference between a bus and train travel, bus travel and plane travel? And the immediate difference was that there was a difference in the level of security in it. So we thought, maybe they're either going to try to hide transmitters or maybe even weapons. So when they got to CFI West on Hollywood Boulevard, we checked them. That's Spencer frisking them, former LAPD. And we checked their shoes and everything else, and they were clean. Now, before they showed up where this picture was taken, they showed up an hour beforehand. And I said, "We're not ready for you yet. You guys got to go kill an hour." And they left and came back in an hour with a 1/4 full bottle of vodka in their hands. And they were both stewed to the gills. So we had to huddle and decide whether we're going to test them while these guys are obviously tanked. And true to our own rules, we decided, yeah, alternate state of mind isn't necessarily preclude being tested. So we tested them even though they were tanked. So Reagan decided to take his shirt off. Don't ask me why. And Rolando was put in a separate room. Now you'll notice on these pictures that those are windows in the background. They're facing away from the windows, and both windows are blacked out because those windows lead out to the neighborhood in Hollywood. And we did not want the chance of any information leakage being able to go from one room to another. Reagan had these odd octopus marks on his chest. Again, don't ask me why. He was drooling at one point. Don't ask me why. Here's his score. Um, we kept score of all 52 tries. So out of 52, how many do you think he got right? Well, he went 0 for 52. If he would have guessed the same card every time, he would have gotten one right. But he didn't do that. And there were some weird guesses anyway. You can see these smudge marks here, here, and here. Those were guesses like Jack of Aces or Queen of Tens, which, to my knowledge, do not exist in a standard deck of cards. Um, they took it, they took it pretty well, all things considered, from their 23-hour trip, and went on their merry way and said goodbye, and that was the end of it. What's the weirdest one we ever tested? It had to be this guy, just because it took us a long time even to figure out like how to do this. This is Donnie, who lived south of Chicago. Donnie claimed that he could channel vibrations from a distance. So from Illinois, he could channel a song that was being played in California, music. Here's the catch. The music doesn't even have to be playing aloud. He could channel it just through the vibrations, just even if it's just playing in some kind of a player without the volume going on. Now, what he said he could do was that he could do an interpretive dance. And if we had 7 different pieces of music, every time the piece of music transitioned from one piece to another, he would change the style of dance that he was doing. Now, this is a problem right off the bat because I don't know a mambo from a samba. So even if he changed, I wouldn't necessarily know it. So we asked him to raise his hand every time the music changed from one piece to another. He would raise his hand. So here's what we did. We put a series of songs together on an Audacity file. So there was a waveform. And I put those vertical bars there are white noise, a little blast of white noise. So here's what it sounded like, one transition from another.
Isn't it rich?
So these, just like in the case of those two songs, the styles of music and the artists were radically different from each other. So there should be no doubt one started to another. And anyway, like I said, we put these vertical bars of white noise. So when we played the waveform, we could watch where the song was, even though it wasn't playing. And then he would have to raise his hand right when one of those bars hit on the player. He had to get 4 out of the 7 changes within 2 seconds of the bar. And he was not able to do it. He wanted to try again because he said he was nervous, and we wouldn't let him because we only had one of these things. But he was not able to do it. But boy, was that a different one. I don't know how he found out he could do this or anything else, but he did not pass the test. So here's some general takeaways. No one has ever passed a properly conducted test of paranormal ability, especially from us. No one has ever even passed one of our preliminary tests at 5,000 to 1. And most high-profile claimants refuse to be tested. I'm talking about Tyler Henry and John Edward and Teresa Caputo and James Van Prague. None of these people will be tested. They're making a big living doing this stuff anyway, and they don't need science's approval to contaminate their ability to make a big buck. Science has not seen any good evidence for the existence of any paranormal ability. So that 500,000 is out there. If you think you can do it or you know someone who can do it, come on down. Now, last quick test here. Did you ever test anyone famous, talking about famous people? No, but we did have somebody come and be a part of a power balance bracelet test. You might have seen some of the athletes wearing these things. Power balance bracelets were advertised to increase strength, balance, and flexibility. And that little hologram on the right was the action part of the bracelet that was supposed to align your energy or some other BS that was the explanation for how it worked. So Yahoo News called us and wanted to do a test. And that young lady on the left is Dominique Dawes, who you might recognize from the 96 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. Dominique was working for Yahoo News at the time. So we did a test with 16 volunteers who were put through an obstacle course wearing a power balance bracelet. But here's the catch. No one knew in the four groups whether they were wearing the actual bracelet, which had the hologram in it, or if they were wearing a dummy bracelet. So everybody went through the test 4 times, wearing the bracelet, but not knowing which one they had on. So we did this obstacle course upstairs at the old building. They had to run down a balance beam. They had to do figure eights, carry some weights, and then stretch and see how far they could stretch toward touching their toes. So what would you expect to see on the bar graphs for the power balance bracelet if in fact it worked? Because no one knew whether they were wearing it or not. So if it had a real effect, you should just be able to see it based on the scores. Well, you would expect to see the faster times with the people wearing the power balance bracelet, and you would expect to see the superior flexibility in the people when they were wearing the power balance bracelet. What did the graphs actually look like? Almost identical, all of them. Can you tell just by looking at it which one was the power balance bracelet? It was C, had the actual hologram in it, which was tied for the worst score in the obstacle course times and slightly better on the other one. But you can see that these are all essentially the same result. And so there was no result. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't help if you think, your lucky penny or your rabbit's foot is going to help you be a better free throw shooter or make longer putts on the golf course. It might. But is there an actual effect? No, none that we could find. So I don't think people can even do this. Why do we do this? Because the real scientists, the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the Brian Coxes and the people doing great work out there are too busy for this stuff. It's great to be able to tell these stories rather than just rip off all these stats and everything. It settles bar arguments and dinner party disagreements. That's why we had these bookmarks made up. You can hand someone a bookmark if they're jaw flapping about their paranormal powers. Just hand them a bookmark and tell them to go win $500,000. And then finally, it's time for humanity to start to move beyond all this magical thinking and superstitions. People, I'm here to tell you, it does not exist. We've been looking into this. I've been doing this for 25 years. Organized skepticism's been doing it coming up on 50 years, and there's just nothing there. Let me show you some of our contact information. Check out Skepta Lab and Point of Inquiry. You can get hold of me and check out stuff for on the CFIIG.org website, see what we're up to. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions, we can do that now.
All right. That was a great presentation. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. And cheers, my friend.
Yeah.
I drink from the skull of my enemies.
Geez, I wish I had one. I
This
got
was used to be a psychic.
a man after my own heart. This is from the bed of nails at the Discovery Center,
Ooh, that's nice. That's nice.
which is kind of cool.
All right, so we do have a few questions, and before I get to them, I have a quick question because it's weighing on my mind. You mentioned that a gentleman from a mental health facility reached out, and that you told him he needed a note from his doctor, but I don't know if you actually said, did he get the note?
No,
Ah, damn.
I mean, in my imagination, the doctor said, "Look, here's what's going on," and told him what was happening. So
Right.
that's what I hope happened anyway.
Okay, so we got some questions here, and I'll just go down the line.
Okay.
We have Stephen Brune. I think that's how you pronounce it. He says, before a test, do you try to anticipate the excuses you'll hear if the test fails?
No, I have this dream. I wanted to create the big book of excuses and just write them all down, but I haven't had time to put that together. No, I mean, we actually do anticipate it in the design of the test protocol.
Right.
So when we say we will not participate, that's in order to prevent people from saying, you guys knew what the real answer was, but you just wouldn't say it. So
Right.
that's why we don't participate. And so there are other things like that where we just don't want to hear their complaints afterward. That's why the test is designed the way it is.
Okay. Cool. All right. Next question is from Ernie. Uh, is there something is there something the CFIIG can do based on its results that not one of the $500,000 challenge paranormal claimants has ever been found to have a paranormal ability, which they claim, to introduce changes in law or help institute new laws that can stop psychics or mediums from making claims they assisted law enforcement in solving a case? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Great question.
it's tougher with psychics because most of them, and by the way, the law is different in every state and probably
Right.
even in municipalities. But most of them have this disclaimer that this is for entertainment purposes only. So there's really no way to say that you're defrauding anyone. Um, we've gone after the law in some other circumstances. We had a big, long battle with the California Board of Registered Nursing about some continuing education classes that were sanctioned by the board that we thought were paranormal in nature and shouldn't be allowed. CFI had, a lawsuit against homeopathy and some of these other, which are essentially paranormal claims or alt medicine claims. So there are circumstances where we try to get the law changed. The psychics are usually the person who is defrauded has to step forward and file charges, and it
Right.
can't come from outside.
Right. I know there's a detective in, I think he's in Florida, Bill Nygaard, that takes on some of these cases. I don't know what the criteria is, but if you have a problem out there with a psychic that's taken thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars from you, I would reach out to Bill Nygaard.
Yeah.
He might be able to help you. Next question from Erica Engelhaupt. Hey, Erica, it's good to see you. Have you have you had people try to claim the prize using real abilities that are not paranormal, such as savant abilities or special skills that they attribute to the paranormal?
Yeah, so this is part of our doing our homework part that, if someone says he can do massive math division problems in his head or something like that,
Right.
that's not a paranormal ability. That is what you're talking about. There are people out there that can shoot 500 free throws in a row. It's an extraordinary ability. It's not a paranormal ability.
Right.
So yeah, we try to limit it to things that are sort of outside the laws of physics, that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay. Good. Good answer. Next question comes from Ann Toft. I think that I'm horrible with names, so I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. Ann asks, how does someone become a first responder?
You contact me and, you can join the group. And what we do is we sort of mentor people along a little bit. and let them observe the process for a little while, and then let them answer some of the applicants and run the responses by us first. And, I think just if after you do it for a certain amount of time, you sort of get what's going on. And there's plenty of filters along the way. So yeah, if you're interested, just email me at jimu@cfiwest.org, and we'll get you going.
Okay, cool. I'm going to try and run through some of these because we got a bunch and we're running out of time. I think it's Barry, Barre or IE, Barry. So, can a UK gifted PK subject be tested in the UK? If so, and if the subject is successful, can the $500,000 be given to the subject based on the outcome of the tests performed in the UK?
Yeah. First of all, don't start making plans for the money right now. Because I hear it. I hear when there's like they're lining up. We have people in the UK. It depends on the nature of the claim. Some people say that they can make things move from 5,000 or 6,000 miles away. So if you can make something move in my office, we'll test you here. But it just depends on the availability of people. And yeah, I mean, you can convert the money to whatever denomination you want if you pass, but that's a big if, Barry.
Okay. Gabrielle says, test it any theological beliefs.
There have been tests of the efficacy of prayer, but it's a sloppy thing to test because there are people out there who pray for all the sick people in the world, which technically contaminates the specific test you would be running. And do you know you're being prayed for and stuff like that? But I mean, those are more like investigations, the type of stuff you would do or that our group has sometimes done, crying Madonnas and stuff like that.
Right.
If it's a religious belief that spills over into the physical world, then it's within our purview. Yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. Next question. Roxanne Bedford asks, do you show your tests on YouTube? They need to be on YouTube Shorts or Twitter, etc., like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Kenny, there's one on its way. We have some little videos on our CFIIG website, and we do have video of lots of these things. But frankly, we're in need of people who can take the time to put all this stuff together and cut videos together. So the answer is we have video. It's not much of it is available to be seen by the public.
Okay. I'm going to pick one more because we're right at the end here. Let's see. When someone claims they can do something strange, like getting 47 out of 42 cards or seeing missing kidneys, do you ask why they think they can do it?
There are questions on the application, like how long have you been able to do this and how did you first discover this? And yeah, we usually talk to them afterward about this. Many people want to spend a bunch of time talking about their whole process and their methodology and their theories about how this works. But frankly, I'm not interested in all that stuff until you pass the test. If someone pass it, then I'll listen to that stuff till the cows come home. But until you pass, it just doesn't matter what you think is going on.
Okay. And we got one more final question.
Okay.
From Gretchen. What's the age range of people who apply and or actually take the test? Are some types of claims more popular in different age groups?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's good.
We'd have to look at all the stats from the applications, but I'd say, I mean, we're careful about testing people who are under 18 just because, we want some legal consent going on. So let's say it's probably 18 to 80, kind of in that range. The dowsers tend to be a little older because that's sort of an old timey belief that people hang on to.
Yeah.
But the rest of them they're all over the map. These beliefs are out there, and millions of people still hang on to them.
I know. I mean, and we just tested a dowser, like what, 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, he was a younger one. Yeah, we just did one. The whole CFI staff witnessed this test, and Kenny's putting together a video. So definitely stay tuned for that one, and you can see what happens to every single dowser. People do not pay for a dowser to pick a spot to put your well in. It's a waste of money.
Right, right. All right, that's it. We are wrapped up. Thank you, Jim, for joining, and thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone out there enjoyed the presentation, got some good information. And again, if you want to be a first responder, reach out to Jim, talk to him, see what's going on. I know you do have like summaries on the website about all the tests, so people can at least read the summaries. So go check that out. And to wrap it up here, remember, Point of Inquiry, that's our podcast. Go to your podcast thingy on your phone or whatever and subscribe to it. Skeptical Inquirer magazine, get it. It's a good magazine. And then come out to SciCon, October 24th to 27th. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a lot of fun. Jim's going to be there. I'm going to be there. This guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, this other guy, Brian Cox. I don't know who they are, but they're going to be there. We're going to hang out. We'll see if they'll do some shots with us. Barry's going to be mad at that one. Anyway, so everyone have a great night, and we'll see you next month. All right.
Thanks,
Take it easy,
everyone.
Jim.